Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and it's nice to be back on Genshin once in a while. Right now we got BAIZHU here front and center. The reason being is because there are people who are saying like, Walrus, I think my C6 Kirara is actually outperforming my C0 BAIZHU in certain areas, certain team comps. And does this mean like, wait, that's so weird, right? He just came out and then they release a 4-star at that has potential to overtake him in certain team comps. Aren't 5-stars supposed to be the staple standards of certain niches and playstyles? But how come Kirara has been able to kind of side creep BAIZHU? I don't want to say power creep because I don't think it is power creep, even though the thumbnail title may lead you to think like, whoa, what's going on? There's just some people right now who are slightly concerned like, wait, should I have just invested into Kirara if I'm playing these type of team comps, right? So for example, there are people who say like Kirara feels better in Nilou comps. There are people who are saying that due to her Dendro shield being able to absorb additional Dendro damage, and she's applying Dendro extremely well in her held elemental state. On top of that, right, prior to this, people were running BAIZHU and Kokomi on the same team. In that comment, there's like, oh, Kokomi can do fine. We just need a BAIZHU to kind of fill in for some additional Dendro application as well as a clutch healing. Because let's be honest, healing wise, it was over the top of that team. That team doesn't need that much healing. It's simply because of the other aspects that BAIZHU brings to the team. But now people say like, oh, I got my C6 Kirara coming in here, right, and buffing up some elemental damage as well, and she just overall feels amazing, right? Like people are actually blown away. It's like, wait a minute, a 4-star character that C0's decent, right? I wouldn't say she's amazing as C0, but when you scale her all the way up C4, C6, and all that stuff, she starts feeling pretty damn good, enough to make a previously released, very well respected BAIZHU feel threatened in current team compositions. Now what's with that? This video is sponsored by U7Buy. Use the link in the description below to come and get a slight discount off of your Primogem purchases as well as the Welcome Moon. Thank you for always supporting the channel content, and now let's get back to the video. So let's talk about this, right? So currently that people playing BAIZHU must have realized that he's actually a very well all-rounder unit. He doesn't really excel exceedingly well in one area or the other. His main strength is that he does all of them at the same time, right? Like he can heal very well. Actually, he can heal the whole team while not even being on the field. So comparative to a character like Yao Yao, which we're going to be talking about as well later, because people are saying like, well, BAIZHU kind of feels like a slight upgrade to Yao Yao. But in my opinion, I think BAIZHU is quite a substantial upgrade to Yao Yao, and meta players, especially in CN, who are like the super tryhard people, agrees with that, is because he's a consolidation of roles. And I've been saying this for so damn long, is that we need more units like BAIZHU, and CN meta players really enjoy him because he takes a lot of different things that different character does, and he kind of squeezes them into one role, one character, right? Even though, again, I want to emphasize, yes, those utility features that he brings aren't really like the top-notch options. He does enough to make you feel like that it's worthwhile, right? For example, his shielding. A lot of people would say his shielding is not that good. However, when you play him, yet it feels like his shielding doesn't feel as bad, right? Like, sure, it breaks very easily, but when enemies hit you, let's say a big boss hits you, yes, the shield breaks, you might take some damage, but he'll heal you right back up. However, the stagger is resisted, right? So your character, sure, they're taking the damage, but they're still stagger resisted. So that's another thing that people don't really talk about enough. It's that when BAIZHU is being played, there's a level of comfort that you just don't get from any other character. For example, when it comes to Zhongli, he doesn't bring any healing, right? So if you run into corrosion, you're kind of screwed. BAIZHU doesn't care about corrosion. The man completely counters it. On top of that, he has a shield that prevents stagger effects, so your carries can actually stay on the field, additional damage, the shield refreshes. On top of that, he's applying Dendro, which is one of the most desirable elemental applications we currently have in game. In fact, when we talk about Kirara a little later, that's like one of the only reasons that she's even able to compete with BAIZHU, is because she applies Dendro quite well, actually. However, Yao Yao or Kirara, there's one thing that they cannot compete with BAIZHU, is the fact that they take up too many roles, right? Too many slots in the team, you just can't. So that's why they can rival him maybe in some unique scenarios, but not together. Right, let's talk about Kirara first, because that's probably why you guys clicked on the video. So the thing with Kirara is that, sure, she's great, she generates a shield and she applies Dendro very well. However, she doesn't heal. So the teams that she can actually participate in is extremely limited. In fact, right now, currently people really praise her in Nilou Super Bloom, which is a given, right? I think that Kirara is extremely well fitted into that team, and I would say yes, probably better in some scenarios than BAIZHU. In fact, I would say in most scenarios, right? And BAIZHU would fit that team quite well. let's say if you are somehow needing more healing, or you want to give more field time to another character, which doesn't really make sense. Nilou doesn't really deal a ton of damage by herself. Nahida doesn't really deal a ton of damage by herself, nor does Kokomi. So that entire team's concept is built around Super Bloom. So it doesn't really matter who is really on field. It's just somebody is on field driving the element to proc the Super Bloom effect. In that case, that's why a character like BAIZHU may not seem absolutely necessary. There were instances that people were swapping BAIZHU out for the Dendro MC, in fact, right? So it's not like BAIZHU was the sole savior of that team comp. However, when you look at a team comp like Sino Hyper Carry, there's no way you're going to be replacing BAIZHU in that team. You can't replace him with Yao Yao. You can't replace him with Kirara. No way in hell. And Kirara, actually, once you kind of take her away from the Nilou Super Bloom teams, you'll start to quickly realize that, okay, there's not too many places she can slot into if you already have Nahida. So in fact, Kirara actually tries to compete with multiple Dendro characters here, not just BAIZHU, but because of her role as applicator and shielder on the team, she also could kind of replace the role of, let's say, Dendro MC, Nahida, as well as Kale, right? When it comes to those teams that requires a Dendro applicator. However, if you have Nahida, it's a no-brainer. Nahida outranks her by far, and I'm willing to bet on this is that Kirara, when it comes to the top meta players in the coming weeks and months, is not going to see much usage. Why is that, right? Right now, a lot of people are talking about her, so you guys might have the wrong idea that she is somehow this broken character, or she's insanely overpowered, or she's, like people are saying, side creeping BAIZHU. But let's be honest here, she's a 4-star at the end of the day, a pretty decent one. Now, some people are giving her praise to the point that, oh, she's gonna be the next Kuki Shinobu, which I don't doubt it depending on how the game develops, but currently we have so many great Dendro characters already. In the DPS role, we have top tier carries. In the support role, we have top tier carries. In the healer role, we have one of the top and most competitive healers and supports in the game right now in BAIZHU. Yes, he's incredibly good when it comes to end game meta player standards, right? I know a lot of people are watching this at Walrus. I don't care about end game, I care about the overworld, and Kirara is S+ tier in the overworld. Agreed. She currently has one of the most unique overworld abilities that combats the most annoying mechanic in the game, which is climbing, right? If you guys don't know, oh my god, I hate climbing in this game so much. Like, if there's one thing I can delete from the game is climbing and stamina consumption when climbing or whatever. It's very annoying, and with Kira, yes, you can completely bypass that, and she is truly S+ tier, in the same tier as Venti, in the same tier as Kazuha, in the same tier as Ayaka, and of course Lily Pichu. But if you're sitting here asking me, Walrus, do you see a future for Kira to exist in the game, right? You're saying sure, she competes with BAIZHU in these very niche teams, but what about in the future, right? Are you just denying the fact that she has the potential to rise up to the level of Kuki Shinobu? And I do feel like it. Why? The main reason, like I said before, is that the Dendro roles in the game currently are extremely well designed, right? There are no fluff characters. There isn't like a Dendro character in the 5-star category that's just like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and be useless. They're all extremely well designed, well polished characters with great kits that synergizes even better with the other units that have been released in Sumeru. Like, I truly think that Sumeru has a better designed overall 5-star cast than the previous regions, and I do think that going forward we'll likely see more and more polished and well designed characters that synergizes with each other and complements each other at times. And I think that 4-stars are going to take a huge hit in this regard. They've already taken a huge hit prior to Sumeru. 4-stars have just been kind of left in the dust ever since characters like Bennett, Zhangling, Xingqiu came into the game. Oh wait, that's since the beginning of the game. They've always been undervalued, undershadowed since the release of the game, because you can never power creep those characters. They made those characters too damn well to sell their game in the early game to free-to-play players, just like what they're probably doing in Honkai Star Rail. I do think future 4-star characters released in the game maybe are not going to be as good as the current ones, with exceptions to Yukong, because I think Yukong is going to be pretty nutty, but I think that it's still early game enough in Honkai Star Rail that they can be releasing characters, because they realize that in the early game, if you release good 4-stars, people invest into those 4-stars, they're probably going to play the game much longer than they would have otherwise, right? Thinking they got a pretty sweet deal out of it. Genshin is kind of the opposite. Right now, 4-stars are suffering in Sumeru mainly because the 5-stars are so well designed overall. Yes, there are some hit and misses in 5-stars, but they're mainly DPSs, but overall very well designed characters, and BAIZHU isn't going anywhere. Currently in the Spiral Abyss, by meta standards in CN, he is at 67% usage rate. That is quite insane. He's almost creeping up to the S+ tier category, up there with Bennett, up there with Nahida, up there with Raiden Shogun and Yalan. So just think about that for a second. Kirara isn't doing anything to BAIZHU. The only reason a lot of people are even playing Kirara is to test and see if she actually can even compete with him, and that's at C6. So again, C6 4 stars should be rivaling C0 5 stars regardless, but I rest my case, right? Don't worry, BAIZHU is insanely good. For the people who have invested into him, congratulations, you made a very good choice in doing so, but only in select team compositions, which currently are likely favored. I do anticipate him dropping down to maybe 50% or so usage rate, which is still very respectable, maybe 40% on a low patch, but I think he's here to stay. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like, subscribe if you enjoy these kind of breakdown videos, and until the next one, urge y'all to stay safe. Peace, bye bye.